Ireland could wrap the Six Nations title up this weekend, but England will be looking to throw a spanner in the works. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Round 4, second last round of this year's Six Nations. It's been a tournament that certainly has had a few surprises this year for us, and we could maybe see one or two more this weekend. Certainly, I think we're going to see at least one surprise before the tournament is done, at least. And, looking at the fixtures this weekend, they're looking like they're all going to be tight. So we're going to just quickly go through each of them, and we will, as usual, have previews of each of the games, going over the teams, etc. Probably tomorrow on Friday. So without further ado, let's jump into this weekend's game. So we're starting with Italy versus Scotland. This one is in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. It's at 2:15 GMT, so just for your local time from that. In terms of last year's Six Nations, it was Scotland 26, Italy 14. There was a hat-trick from Blair Kinghorn there last year. And all of these fixtures as well were actually, last year's final round of fixtures, other than obviously the teams that are home now were away and vice versa. But yeah, I think for me, this was the kind of final nail in the coffin for, the whole thing of Hogg making the World Cup or not. I think he announced his retirement around the same time. I don't know whether before or after the game, but yeah, Blair Kinghorn just showed that he was the man to be fullback for Scotland going forward if he's fit. And I think it's the same thing here. He should be back there as well in this one. And looking at, the table, so you got Scotland at the moment in second on 9 points, and Italy at the bottom with 3, but, they've got Wales just ahead of them. So depending on how, even if they lose this one, if they can get maybe a couple of bonus points out of it, they could potentially leapfrog Wales and climb off the bottom of that table. But in terms of the game itself, so as Italy on the back of what must be like a crushing draw against France, it's just the way it is, right? If they had have kicked that last kick to draw the game, it would have been a huge high for them coming into this. But the fact that instead, ball falls off the tee, or BC doesn't have time to put it back properly, and then hits the post and they draw, it must have felt like a huge loss. Now, in terms of the charge stuff on it, I think a lot of people have covered that. Italy probably should have gotten to retake the kick and probably should be coming in on the back of a win, a first ever win against France in France, would have been a huge uplift for them. So how they respond to that is going to be, very telling, I think, of this team we've seen in the past, and not the very, very distant past in the Rugby World Cup, where, when things started going against them, they really kind of folded, and, it got worse and worse. So that's something that the new coach in there, Caseta, hopefully he is able to instill a bit of better mental preparation for the team for this one, and that they can bounce back and at least give Scotland a game, if not come out with a victory. Scotland, they had their own disappointment against France as well a couple of rounds ago, where potentially they could have won the game at the death as well, only for Timo decision to go against them on that try. That, again, I'll say it again, I think it was definitely a try, but I also think that the TMO and the referee came to the correct decision in not awarding it. It may seem like, for people who don't watch too much rugby, may seem like a bit of a contradiction, but I think, I think it was the right decision in the end. And it depends now in the future if, rules are going to change around things like that. But at the moment, that's where we are. So, but then Scotland, they bounce back against England. Duhan van der Merwe with, a sensational hat trick there. The guy's in red hot form, and, the thoughts of himself and Capuozzo both, being given plenty of space to run in. Looks like this might be an entertaining game. Sometimes though, with stuff like that, it can deliver, and other times it can actually end up with a bit of a tense affair, kind of the way Italy and France did, and actually Scotland, France as well. Wasn't as entertaining flowing rugby as maybe we would have expected from teams who like to run the ball. Sometimes they kind of cancel each other out, and especially with, I think there's a lot riding on this for both teams as well. You got Italy there who, they want to win. They want to win in front of their own fans as well. Obviously, they're going to be targeting the Wales game as a potential win for them. But they ran England close in Rome. They were nilled against Ireland. Then that disappointment of that draw against France where they could have won. So now this is another opportunity for them to win. For Scotland, it's about now delivering for them. I think that they got their title challenge back on track against England. They now need England to do them a favour if they've got any realistic chance of winning the title. But they have to put the pressure on Ireland by coming up with a win in that game. And, realistically, I think given the way Ireland, have gotten bonus points in all of the games so far, I think Scotland need to not just win, but win with a bonus point as well, to put maximum pressure on Ireland and put themselves in position that if Ireland do slip up against England, then it's all going to ride on that final game in Dublin, next weekend. So they've got to at least put themselves in that position to be able to take advantage of a slip up from Ireland. At the moment, their fate is not in their own hands. Obviously, Ireland are the only team whose fate is in their own hands at the moment. And, Scotland, we've seen them in the past where they've come very close to potentially winning the title, and they've mentally they haven't been there, they haven't turned up in big games. And against France, I think they played well enough to have been out of sight against France that they wouldn't have needed that try to be awarded at the end, and they weren't as clinical as we're used to seeing them, certainly not as clinical as they were against England. And that's something we have to see here now against Italy, is that they, that when the chances that they get, that they have to take them as much as they can and not let it be kind of an arm wrestle. Because I think if Scotland can get into kind of the 30 odd points scored, I think they're going to win the game. If Italy can keep it somewhere, in the teens or in the kind of low to mid 20s, then they've got a realistic chance of winning the game. I think that's where it comes down to is, Scotland, they're going to create chances, but they have to actually take them. And kind of similar for Italy as well. You want to see Italy being a little more, little more clinical as well when they have chances. If first of all, they got to keep that Scotland attack quiet, which is not easy. We've seen that, Van der Merwe, if you get him in space, how are you supposed to stop the guy? It's crazy. But they have threats of their own. They've got Capuozzo, they've got Ioane. Brex has had an excellent terms as well. He just needs kind of a permanent partner in there with him as well. Garbisi at 10 has done decent as well. Then the back row has chopped and changed a lot, but we'll have to see. That's kind of more talk for the when we see the teams as well. We'll talk a bit more about personnel, but Italy, you can feel like that from this tournament that it's obviously the beginning of a new era, but I think as well we want to see it being not just, we've seen so many times new coach comes in, Italy get a bit of a bump, and then they go back to just being kind of the wooden spooners every year. We don't want to see that with Italy now. We want to see them progressing to the point where there's a possibility of them moving into that kind of third, fourth place bracket as well, and putting pressure on teams. And that starts, this year, not necessarily winning, but coming close to teams and being, having that confidence to say that, if we had, this had gone our way, or we had done this, or we improved this, then we have a chance of beating, most of the teams in the Six Nations. And I think this is a game for them to kind of show that the potential seriously, at least. So they won't want to get, kind of the result that they had against Ireland. They don't want that to repeat. They did do really well against France, but it's an outsourced France, whereas Scotland have been in pretty decent form. So if they can perform against them, then I think you can see that there is real progress being made there. I do believe there is progress there, but I think it'll become more apparent to everyone. For Scotland, it's one of these weird ones where, again, they have to win. They probably have to get the bonus point to put the pressure on Ireland, but if Ireland perform, then what Scotland did won't matter. Whereas if Scotland lose, suddenly Gregor Townsend, he's always in a precarious position. It's certainly with the media, with the rugby media, where it's kind of like, if things are going well for Scotland, then everything's okay. And then as soon as there's a bump in the road, and it's not just a case of being able to look, against France, it's all about the TMO and the referee, etc. But if fingers start pointing at Townsend, which often happens with Scotland, with kind of pretty regularly, actually, that it doesn't take too much really for things to kind of turn against them. So, but we'll have to see what happens with that. But in terms of the game itself, I think it is going to be a Scotland victory, but I do think that Italy will put in a decent performance. But I think Scotland, just given the firepower and the fact that Van der Merwe is in such great form, and to have Kinghorn there as well, another real try threat at the back there as well. There's so much competition for their back row spots too. And, the likes of Skuman has had a great tournament. Second row is going fairly well too. And because of that, I think they probably will get the bonus point. It might be a case where they kind of sneak it in the last 10 minutes. But I do think they probably will come out with the 5 points out of that. So next game then is England versus Ireland. This one is in Twickenham in London, and it is a 4:45 GMT kickoff. The last year's game was in Dublin. Philly Stewart got sent off at pretty much a half-time, right? 40 minutes. And half-time score was 10-6. Ireland were really struggling against England. And then even when England went down to 14, they continued to struggle to, breaking it down. England just made it an absolute dogfight between them, kind of dragged Ireland down to their level. And, it took kind of, great performance from Johnny Sexton, really, to turn things around for Ireland and to deliver that slam for them as well. Like, Ireland did end up scoring 4 tries. Sheehan got 2, and then Henshaw and then Rob Herring right at the 4 or 5 minutes to go or something, pretty much right at the death, got over as well. But it took them like 30 odd minutes before Sheehan got over for the first one, and then another 30 odd minutes or 30 minutes for Henshaw's try to go in. And then they started to get a little, feel a little bit more comfortable once Sheehan went over for his second about 5 minutes later. But like that only left about 10 minutes left of the game. So I think England did really well last year to manage the fact that they were down to 14 men for half the game, and also to manage the fact that, the difference between the teams in terms of just the quality of the players and also the form that the players were in as well. And that's something I think, we're hearing talk of England talking about, they're going to they know how to attack Ireland and etc. But I think they're probably going to try and make it a tighter game again this year. And it's kind of similar to Italy, really, against Scotland. England want to keep the score down to somewhere in the teens or into kind of the mid-20s. I think realistically they have a chance if they can do that. If Ireland are getting up over the 30-point mark, then England would have to be really on fire, and it would be an amazing game to see as well. Both teams getting over the 30-point mark. You're talking about at least 4 tries each out of that. And it would be, obviously I want to see Ireland win, but if England did win that one, it would be a very entertaining game. But, so from the England point of view, we've seen in the tournament so far, I think like the centre pairing, not the centre pairing, the second row pairing of Itoje and Chesham has been good, but then you have Cunningham South off the bench as well, offering a lot in there too. So I think in terms of second row, they're really well set there. Ireland's second rows have been excellent as well. Like, Ty Byrne has just hit form at absolutely the right time. Joe McCarthy giving, a lot of extra oomph there as well. You got Ryan coming off the bench, who would have thought before, even a few months ago that Ryan wouldn't be a starter if he was fit and available for the team. And that's just how much they've gone up there. And then you have the likes of Henderson as well coming back, potentially, pushing for a place there as well. Then you've got potentially Keenan coming back into full back. Frawley did well last time, but I'm sure most Irish fans would love to see Keenan back in there. Then you got Ringrose pushing for a start in midfield as well. So there's lots of potential for Ireland to kind of make a few changes. Not too many. We don't want to see that many in it. But then England, what are they going to do in terms of their selection as well? Like, they took Stewart out of full back. Are they going to do that again this time? That's another thing to see there as well. But I do feel that if England attack the way they did against Scotland, then Ireland are just so clinical that it could get a little bit embarrassing for England, kind of similar to that France game. Was that that last year or a couple of years ago? But yeah, I think it's it would get really messy for England if they did that, if they just decided, well, let's both just go for it. I think Ireland's attack is just so slick that they're not going to finish every chance, but they're going to finish a lot more chances than England do if England play in attack the way they did against Scotland, because they looked like timing was off, positioning was off as well, and then just that when the ball was breaking loose as well. It wasn't just that, it was quickness to the loose ball as well. Almost every time against Scotland were there first, and we saw it where, Furbank dropped the ball there, and it led to the Van der Merwe try where he went around Earl and then burned Furbank before finishing in the corner as well. That, Scotland were just so much quicker to breaking ball than England. So that's something they're definitely going to have to fix against Ireland. Also, set piece, Ireland's lineout has gone really well so far in the tournament. So England, with the likes of Itoje, they certainly do have, weapons there to disrupt the Irish lineout. But Ireland also, with the likes of Byrne and Peter O'Mahony in their lineout too, have the ability to disrupt the English one as well. Then scrums, we've seen England scrum going well this tournament and not so well. Ireland seem to be going well so far in the scrum. There's always talk though about, Andrew Porter, is he legal, is he not? And it's always down to referee's interpretation. And then what I want to see is, if he is kind of losing the battle with the referee, can he change the way he's scrummaging enough to get back on the right side? Because last year he certainly couldn't do that, and in the World Cup we saw that as well. So we'll have to kind of wait and see on that. But in terms of how do I see this one going, I think, Ireland obviously coming in as big favourites. I don't think that England are going to go for this whole, play fast and loose kind of thing against Ireland, because I do believe that, the English defence, the new kind of rush defence to have under Felix Jones, we see is causing trouble for oppositions at times, but it's also causing trouble for England at times. I think Ireland can pick that apart the way it is at the moment. I think England still need maybe their summer tour to really bed that in, and then when we see them in the autumn, there might be a different proposition. But then on attack as well, I think the Irish defence, not just the straight up line defence, but also the scramble, is probably the best in the Six Nations. So I think Ireland are going to be able to cope with that England defence. So England need to find a different way to potentially beat Ireland. But I think that Ireland have enough tools that even if England make it a scrappy game, they'll come through. I'm not sure whether they're going to get the bonus point, but I'm fairly confident that Ireland are going to win this one. And depending on how the Scotland game goes, then Ireland could wrap up the competition there and then, because I believe that if Ireland equal the number of match points that Scotland have, so at the moment, like Ireland are on 15 points, England down on 8, so England have to beat Ireland to have any kind of outside chance of winning the title. But yeah, if Ireland match the number of match points that Scotland get, then Ireland will wrap up the title. So if they both won, let's say just one and no bonus points, Scotland will move on to 13, Ireland will move on to 19, 6-point gap, so Scotland wouldn't be able to close that in the final game. And then if they both won with bonus points as well, it would be the same thing. If Scotland were to win with a bonus point and Ireland didn't, then Scotland then would be in the position where they're going into the last round. They'd need to win by a bonus point against Ireland. They'd also need to deny Ireland any kind of bonus point at all, and they would have like a score that they're chasing as well. Obviously, if Ireland lose to England, then suddenly Scotland really do have a chance, as long as they don't mess up against Italy, and also England come back into the equation as well for that too. Where, for them, I think the problem is that with Scotland and Ireland playing each other, it's going to be, an unlikely scenario for England to leapfrog both of those in the final round. So that's kind of where that one is. But as I said, I think it's probably going to be an Ireland win. But I think England are going to make it a bit messier, kind of similar to last year. Then the final game of the weekend is Wales versus France. It's at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff. It's on Sunday, 10th of March, and kickoff is 3 p.m. GMT. So last year, this one was, let me pull up now. So last year was France 41, Wales 28. So France leading 20 points to 7 at half time. Looked like they're cruising into the second half. Then, they add on a few more scores as well. Like Antonio goes over. Fiku gets the bonus point try within 10 minutes of the restart. It looks like France are just going to cruise to the win. Then Wales start coming back at them. Bradley Roberts over. Then Tomas Williams as well. And, they're making it, a bit more interesting towards the end there. And it was only really when Pinot went over with about 5 minutes to go that France kind of relaxed and say, okay, we've won the game now. And then Rio Dyer obviously gets over in the last minute as well for Wales to make it seem even closer on the scoreboard. But that's kind of that was the story of last year. We could see a similar game this year, and of the two teams, it's kind of hard to say which one is in the better form, because obviously France are higher in the table because they have that one win against Scotland. They got that draw as well against Italy. Wales have lost 3 from 3, but they've looked decent in at times, at least in all of the games. Like that's period in the second half against Ireland where they scored like they had that penalty try at the start, and then they're pushing for a second try as well. Really did, look like they could cause some problems to Ireland. And I think in the Six Nations at the moment, you can cause problems to Ireland, you can cause problems to any team there as well, but it's got to be sustained. And one of the problems Wales have this season is they've only ever scored in one half of the games, whether that was like all the points coming in the second half against Scotland, all the points coming against the first half against England, and then I think all the points came in the second half against Ireland as well. So they've got to get that, at least a 60, 70 minute performance, if not a full 80 minute performance, if they've got a realistic chance of winning this game, because they're, whatever about chasing down scores, you've got to have a platform, I think, to start from as well. So if kind of they go in at half time and it's like 9-16 or something around there, they'll see that there's the potential to come back at France in the second half. Whereas I think if they're 16-0 down or something around that kind of figure, then you might see one of these where they come back a little bit and then France go again, and then they come back again, but then France ultimately come out with the win. But you have to think, like with France as well, that their confidence has to be kind of shot at the moment. They got absolutely beaten up by Ireland in the first round, should have lost against Scotland, and must count themselves very lucky to come away with a win from that one. And then they should have lost against Italy as well. And they feel like a team that, mentally fragile, where if things are going well for them, then, the confidence is there. The likes of BL Barry and, the likes of Fiku, Pinot, Ramos, they're all going to be looking good. But then as soon as the pressure comes on and, then it's like an eggshell, right? One crack and then the whole thing is gone for them. And, if Wales can do that, like the likes of Reffel and Wainwright, if they can produce in that back row. We know France have had trouble in the back row this year with injuries, and it could be an area where Wales can get on top. I think Wales are definitely going to have to try and get some kind of parity though at scrum time, because the likes of Antonio, Bai, etc., could put too much pressure on them there. So they need those young props for Wales to really step up. Then we got the likes of Taoufik Fanua as well, the second row for France. He looks, like a real prospect, but can Wales kind of get in there and disrupt him as well, especially in the line out and stuff like that. So there's a lot of kind of interesting points there in that one. And, it's one of these ones where as well, the winner of the game is then suddenly, potentially going to be in a position to maybe challenge to finish third in the table, potentially second depending on how other results go. But the loser is, going to be down there trying to avoid the wooden spoon. And that's kind of how tight it is between second and sixth in the table at the moment. France there in fourth on 6 points, and Wales in fifth on 3 points. So, if Wales win, they will leapfrog over France in the table. And if France win, then Wales can't catch them, in the final round of it. So it is kind of at the moment kind of a mini battle, I think, for fourth place in the table between these two. And I think also it is, it's kind of interesting to see a team like France who've been up there, in the top couple of teams in the world. Certainly, you would have said even after the World Cup, still there in the top 4 or 5 teams in the world. And now they're like, it's hard to say where they are, honestly. I don't think, this France team certainly don't look like a top 4 or 5 team in the world at the minute. The way they're playing, the way they kind of lack confidence. Wales, they've lost all 3 games, but they've got a young squad, and there's a lot of potential you can see in there. But it's whether Gatland can turn that potential into reality. and start producing results with these young guys as well. I'm sure he will at some point, but it's about whether you can then do that consistently. So this, I think, is a big opportunity for Wales to potentially, catch France at a bit of a low ebb. And it would be one of those ones where, it's a young squad. If they can get what will be, a very memorable win against France, then suddenly, their confidence goes sky high. And whatever happens in the final round of games, I think then they go into that thinking, they're going to be obviously playing Italy, but even if they lose to Italy, then there's still something to build on from them, thinking, look at the French team, look at all the talent that's in there, and you guys were able to pull out a win against them. So, you're able to stand toe to toe against some of the best players in the world and come out on the winning side. So that would be a huge boost, I think, for Welsh rugby. I think that's probably Gatland's aim, is to get, at least one win in this tournament. He obviously doesn't want to be nilled all the way through, or just not win any games all the way through. But this is probably a game where, certainly at the start of the tournament, or before the tournament started, should I say, that you would have looked at it and said, well, France are going to win that. And I don't think, even very optimistic Welsh fans wouldn't have been targeting France as a potential win. They would have saw, potentially Scotland, England and Italy as realistic chances to get a win before the tournament. And Ireland and France, they would have said, no, those two, even if we play our best, is still going to be a stretch with a new squad to produce something. So this could be an absolute huge bonus for Wales. For France, it's a chance to kind of, shake off the doubts and get that confidence back as well. They're playing a team who haven't won at all this tournament. And now, they've got to go and they've got to deliver, and they've got to be able to, be the way they were last year, where if they do get ahead, you got to keep that foot on the throat and you got to keep piling on the points. You can't, the way they did against Italy, where they get the early try and you think, oh, this could be a long, afternoon for Italy, but that's not how it turned out. Like, Italy clawed their way back in, and we've seen with Wales in those other games that's what they've done against Scotland and against Ireland as well, where they've had periods where once, they were able to get themselves in position and score some points and start kind of eating up the advantage. Now against Scotland, they almost did it. Against Ireland were able to kind of weather the storm and go again. So can France do that? Because there will be a period, even if France are in the lead, there will be a period in the game where Wales are going to start coming back at them then and putting under pressure. Can they cope with that? And can they then find that ability to go again? When confidence is low, it's difficult. But yes, we saw with Ireland, when the confidence is there in the team and they believe in their system, they believe in the coaches, they believe in each other, and they believe in their bench coming on as well, which I think is very important, that there is that ability to go again. So it's, I think, another very interesting game there, and it's really hard to call this one, but just because of the way France have been this tournament, I'm going to go for a sneaky Wales victory. I think Wales are just going to pip them, and it's going to be, if it happens, obviously, as I said, a big high for these players. But, France at the moment just don't fill me with confidence. So in summary, Scotland to win in Italy, but a decent Italy performance. Ireland to win a potentially scrappy game against England, and Wales to, it would have been a massive shock at the start of the tournament, but a minor shock, I would say, at this point, if Wales were to beat France, just because of the way France are. So that's the end of that one. We will have individual previews of each of the games. They're going to be coming out tomorrow, Friday, probably sometime around about lunchtime, because I'll be, making them mostly in the morning. But yeah, that's it for this one, and see you on the next one.